I've always wondered what it would be like to be that girl. You know, the ones who seem to have it all figured out, that perfect life, an incredible career, partner, and everything in between. Well, so far, I've identified more as imperfectly perfect. But here's a crazy idea. You and I'm confident we can have it all too. A life we're in love with. Because, hear me out, the more I go through life, the more I realize that actually no one knows what they're really doing. And let's be honest, we're all out here just trying to figure it all out. Life can be messy, busy, and lonely sometimes. But most of all, it's pretty epic, and that's the fun of it. Making mistakes and learning to love who you are. Because you can't hate the experiences that shaped you, right? Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can become who you were meant to be in the first place. But one thing I know for sure is that if there's one thing I'm willing to bet on, it's myself, my true self, and so should you. Welcome to the She's Got It All Figured Out podcast. Well, almost. A personal development podcast helping you design a life you love within the 8 dimensions of wellness. Now, grab a warm cup of coffee, go on your hot girl walk, or put on your sweats and get comfy. But whatever you're doing, get ready for some epic girl talk. Hi, Mariela. Welcome to the She's Got It All Figured Out podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Alex. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you in this beautiful place.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to talk about your journey. So you're an entrepreneur, a mom of 2, and you founded a company called Friendster, which was a social media agency that you now sold, which is very impressive. And now you couldn't get enough. You're already starting a new business called Mattery.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to dive into your journey and how you started into entrepreneurship. Because you also kind of started really from scratch with nothing. So I'm really excited to learn more about that. So how did you kind of get started, in that field?
Correct. I think that the story of how I started can be quite long. So try to keep it short. I did what is called bootstrapping a business. And bootstrapping a business is really starting from nothing and sort of figuring it out based mainly on your own time, on your own skills, which in the industry of services, which is, I was providing social media services to lifestyle brands. I had the capability, the knowledge, and also the time to do so. Initially, how Friendster all got started, how the idea got started is that I was invited to a conference and they wanted me to do 30 minutes on social media for small to medium sized businesses, and I was like, yes, we can do this, and I think it can be really beneficial for everyone in the room. One thing that I knew from that moment on is that I did not want to step onto the stage saying like, hey, my name is Mariela, I do social media for a living. I wanted to be like, hey, Mariela, I own an agency and we do social media for lifestyle brands, small to medium size. Because I knew longer term I wanted to get there, and I was like, okay, this is just like an extra push to get this done.
Yeah.
So, without having a registered business or whatsoever, I created a website. I created, an Instagram and a Facebook page. That's what it was at the time. I had exactly 1 client when I was at the conference. Walking out of the conference, I had maybe 5, 6.
Wow,
so,
already.
But people just see it, and I think social media is also a lot about trust, knowing that the person has the skill set, but it's also about the relationship and knowing that the other person has the taste and that you see eye to eye. So that's really how I got started into this. At the time, I was working full time, and funnily later, that company that I was working for, they came really close to making an offer and buying my Friendster. And to be honest, I think it was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
They were a bit too short on time. If not, I'm pretty sure an offer would have come. So, just a full circle, which is, crazy.
Yeah, especially like when you work somewhere and then, they want to buy what you're doing. That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
And I was also in university full time. I was doing a PR certificate.
I think you're really like you're a really good example of, starting with kind of what you have. So you freelance. You were really smart of, how you kind of started your business, because a lot of people are like, yeah, I'll take risk. I'll just do it all at once, right away. But I think you had a really good approach of how, you did that.
I would say that was probably the smartest thing that I could have done. I told myself I'm not quitting my job until I make exactly what I'm making now. And once I'm flush, once I'm even, then I'll leave my job. And that's what I did. So then it was really, I didn't feel that scared and stuff like that because I already had that security of income. But it does take time to build up. So, there's, you give some, you take some.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest challenges in that journey of building a company to a point where you can actually sell it?
The biggest challenges, I think, saying yes too often and not necessarily aligning with the projects that you're saying yes to. And I would say that when I was saying yes to some of the projects that now I think back on and I'm like, I shouldn't have. In the moment, logically, I was like, no, it makes sense, but my heart knew. So that was, I would say, this was one of my big learning curves. Growing a team, you grow your business, you hire, you go back down. You grow, you go back down. So it's like you take 3 steps forward, but you need to take 4 back, and then 5. So it's always like a tango.
Yeah, it's almost like investing. You have to hire the right people. The right people make a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah,
huge difference. And I would say, although over the 7 years that I had friends, there was turnover like in any single business, but I feel really blessed and grateful for all the people that have worked for me, whether things, and I would say for the most part they ended well, but even for the ones that the situations were a little bit more complicated, I'm still very grateful because I learned a lot from that, and those were definitely not mistakes that I would make today.
Yeah, exactly. And just from, that accomplishment of selling your business, how was that feeling for you? Was it like I made it, or?
Crazy.
Yeah.
No, it was not a made it. It was definitely something that I worked towards. The first time that I thought of selling my business was maybe 4 years ago. And at the time, I spoke about it to my CFO that was working with me, and she was like, "No, we're not anywhere near selling. Just get it out of your head. Like, you will not get what you deserve and what you would probably have in mind." And I was like, "Okay, perfect." And that was it. And like I never thought about it again. And then second time the idea crossed my head, I was pregnant with my first daughter, and she's now 2 and a few months. And I had an ideal buyer in mind. And I was like, if we merge, but it was more of a merger. If we merge with them, we would take over the city. But I was like, it's not the right time. Although I'm interested in it, I'm not ready to commit to that journey of selling.
Yeah, because it's like your little baby, that you created.
And also COVID was just starting. So it was a lot of insecurity, I think, on all fronts. And later during COVID, I did speak to the owner of that agency that I had in mind. And he was like, I think this is a great idea. Like, I have a partner, let's meet up. So things took time. We met, whatnot. By the time all of that happened, I was already pregnant with my second. I had them close. There's that. I started working with a broker. I got serious about the idea, and I was like, let me hire someone who deals and does exactly that, helping businesses like mine find the right fit for a merger or an acquisition. And at that time, I was ready for full acquisition. I wasn't that...
You took the time to be like, this is what I want to do.
But once again, it really would have depended perhaps on who was and what was on the table. But I was ready to step back from that industry. And with the broker, I was like, you sign the contract and you're like, what is going to happen next? And will it actually work? Will someone actually want to buy my business? And it was over the holidays, and things took time, and I was like, no one's interested. And then end of Jan came, And he's like, I've had already 50 interviews with people that are interested, pre-interviews, right?
Yeah.
And then if they are ready to make a letter of intent for purchase, only then I would speak to them.
Okay.
And I was really humbled by the people that I spoke to. I was like, oh my God, this agency wants to buy us? This is so cool. And I got to meet a lot of amazing entrepreneurs that have different journeys, different backgrounds, and are killing it today out there. And it was really humbling to be considered. We had 6 offers for purchase, and 5 of them were agencies, and 1 was a woman just like me. And I sold it to her.
Yeah, because it kind of touches your journey as well. Yeah, definitely. If you build something, you want it to go somewhere where if your confidence gonna keep growing as you wish it would. Yeah.
And I don't regret that. I think it was one of the best decisions I've taken in my entire life was to, because it's riskier, right? An individual buying rather than a company that has all the money in their bank account. They're like, here you go, buy, ciao, we're done, versus, a loan and a process that comes from an individual buying it rather than a company. And although that took longer, it's still the best decision business-wise probably that I've made. So I'm really happy, and she's amazing, and she's leading the company. She's kept the name, she's kept the team, she's growing
that's
the
what
team.
I noticed. That's really cool.
Yeah, so I'm really, really happy about that.
Oh, and talking about kind of your time, I know you're a mom of 2.
Yes.
So how did you manage that? Like, first of all, being a new mom, being in that whole process of selling your company. Let's just start with that.
The process of selling, it takes a village. Probably you've heard that before. It takes a village with kids and all of that. But in business too, if you are not well surrounded, I don't think things sort of will line up the right way. And I was well surrounded. I was working with the broker that I mentioned to you, and we had the same vision. We were going after the same things, and we were seeking, I think we had the same goals at the end of the day. I think my entourage was more stressed about it than I was. I was like, it is what it is. And I remember very well the amounts of times that we've had calls with the broker at 8 p.m. He has 2 or 3 kids as well. They're a bit older. And I'll be like, I'm picking up, but just so you know, you're going to hear some games happening in the work. He's like, I got you, don't worry, all is good. No, so it was just, and I learned in my years of business is you take it one step at a time. I was not stressing about when or how or whatsoever. As things came, I dealt with them, and that was probably the biggest, most positive thing, is that I wasn't selling out of need. I was selling out of purpose.
Exactly.
So I was like, I'm in no rush to sell. I'm not in a financial trouble or whatsoever. The business is doing better than ever, but I'm ready to take the next step for myself. So that's how that decision was intentional and purposeful, and I think that fueled everything that came.
Yeah, and allowing yourself to have the time to take that decision, that's going to lead to something better. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, and just with your kids again, like motherhood now, like with your future goals, like your new business that you're working on, how do you see things for yourself, like being a mom while working on this big project?
This big project, I think Friendser is and was a bigger project than what I'm currently working on, because I'm just starting. So even it's 100 times of 0, it's still 0.
Yeah.
To be honest, I haven't really reflected on that, because I was always all in business. And I think I was perhaps too much all in. And that's why I was like, I'm ready, I'm done, I'm ready to do something else. Because still I wanted to have more time with my kids. I wanted to enjoy. I took my first vacation in 7 years without working. And I was like, oh, I get what the hype is all about. Wow, guys, that's what you've been up to. So it was great, but it was the first. And I took no laptop. And my husband was like, I've never seen you on a vacation.
Like,
without
what
a
is
laptop.
going on?
But no, it was great. And I discovered a new part of myself that, it sounds silly to say, but I've never done that, and I started traveling in my 20s, and that's where we're at. Like, I'm 30 today.
Yeah, and it's kind of allowing to, find yourself in a new way somehow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So that's it. But for most part, I think my kids, my older one is 2 years in a few months, and my younger one is 10 months, and she's starting daycare very soon. And once daycare starts, I mean, everything is, we're going to have our rhythm, and I'm not worried. But at the same time, I also know that I'm stepping into a business that will give me a lot of flexibility. I'm not, I'm not doing a 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. And mad respect for the women and the men that do have a 9 to 5, because there's not a lot of flexibility. Getting a toddler dressed in the morning when you have to be at the office for 8 or for 9, not every morning is a success.
Yeah, that's true.
So
and we talk a lot about balance in different areas of our lives on this podcast. So how would you say for a woman who's listening to the podcast, like how can you bring balance into your life as a woman who has kids and who has a career, either if it's in the corporate world or as an entrepreneur? What would be some tips you have on that?
My personal tip is something's got to give. I think it's very difficult to have it all and to do it all. I try to do it all, but out of this all, I'll do 3 things today, another 3 things tomorrow, another 2 things the day after. It's difficult to do it all. Like today we went for brunch. Sounds fun, and sounds like, wow, you have 2 kids, you went for brunch and then this nice place. Something's gotta give, I came here right after my husband had to juggle the 2 kids.
Juggling life.
So a little bit of the peace of mind had to give here, you know what I mean? That's my tip. And surround yourself with the right people. Create good friendships, maintain, your family bond, prioritize yourself. I didn't prioritize myself enough when I was doing Friendster. Why? Because I was so focused on the push, hustle.
Yeah.
And that was the culture that, I was in that whole startup culture from like 10 years ago, which today is completely different. But I built my business on that culture, and I grew up in that culture. So I did it that way. So no working out, no nothing. And today, now it's my first retirement. Like I told you earlier, I'm in my first retirement. So in my first retirement, I told myself I'm working out every single day that I'm not working. So I'm working every single day right now. I'm working out every single day.
Yeah, it gives so much energy too when you find time to do that.
Yeah, and it's like a whole shift of mindset. And I know very soon I will not have as much time, and I'll be able to, prioritize and try to find that balance. It won't be 5 days, but it will be 2-3 days, hopefully.
Yeah, and just I'm curious now that you're going to embark soon on this new journey of your new business. I want to talk about it a little bit. So
please.
It's called Nuttery, and I'm curious to know because Friendster was really a service-based business, but now you're going into more having a product. So how's that transition?
I don't know. We can speak about it in a month or 2
in a few
or 3.
months.
We can do a follow-up on this. I think everyone who's in service always thinks that product is better, and everyone who's in product-based company, they think service is better. So the grass seems always greener on the other side. From having worked with so many entrepreneurs and businesses with my old company, I've seen it all, and I really feel like there's no one that's better than the other. The struggles might be different, but it all comes down to the same thing. Visibility, sales, good organization, team. Or maybe the other way around. Team,
Yeah.
But I feel very well set up. I think we have everything is... And I don't know if I told you this, but everything has been prepared, to be honest, for quite a few months. Everything to the T is ready. The only thing I'm missing is some postal cards to include some person. Like it's the smallest
thing.
And I think that has been something that I've struggled for the longest time, is perfection and having everything ready to the T, perfect, ready to go in order to launch or to start something. My reasons now for starting a little bit later are other. I wanted to have that vacation in my first retirement, and then be like, okay, I did it. I took 2 months off. I'm good to go. But I know also in the past I've waited way too long for everything to be perfect. So
So can you tell me a little bit more about your business and what it's going to be about?
Yeah, so Nuttery is a direct-to-consumer nuts business. So nuts, mixed nuts, some dried fruits, some grains, but mainly 90% of it is going to be nuts. Direct-to-consumer, so straight, you purchase it online in a semi-bulk format, so it's 1 kilo format. Why? A lot of people ask me why did you choose nuts? First, my husband is
my question.
in the nuts industry, so he's an importer and distributor.
Wow.
And the one thing, he doesn't sell to direct to consumer. And one thing, when I first met him and I started learning about the world of nuts, the reason why nuts seem expensive to us, the end consumer, is because there's so many changes of hands. In order for Metro to buy it or IGA to buy it, they've bought it from this guy who bought it from this guy, and so on and so forth. And at every change of hand, there's anywhere from 20 to 70% increase of price.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, you're buying this pack of, I don't know, let's say cashews for $18, and you're like, oh, well, that's expensive considering my recipe requires me to use all of this just for the sauce. And you're like, okay, so my sauce, and it's not even all the ingredients of your sauce and whatnot, So you're like, oh, nuts are expensive. Everyone I speak to have this perception of nuts are expensive.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like it's almost like a luxury product.
Yeah.
Like I know I'm treating myself when I'm buying like
Exactly.
some cashews or anything.
And qualities that an almond, there's like 50 sorts of almonds that size, quality, whatever. So my goal is to bring the best quality forward in an affordable price. Why? Because we're cutting a lot of the middlemen in the process. It's easy, and eventually we're going to have a subscription model, and eventually, this is, you heard it here first. You heard it here first. A brunch spot, I hope.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah. That's genius that you're taking your connections, like obviously having your husband and creating something that's a need, because
it's a need. Yeah, 1,000%. And I started Friendster out of a need because I saw there was a need for that. And I see a huge need today for the world of nuts and everything around nuts to be reimagined and recreated and rediscovered.
Yeah, I feel like a business that starts, first of all, with mission and with a need is like, setting yourself up for success.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Definitely. And where can people find you if they want to follow your journey, your new company coming in, everything?
Yeah, well, I'm on a new mission in the next week to start sharing more about the process on my personal account, which is at Ella Katz with 2 Z's on Instagram. And of course, there's already some things on Nuttery's Instagram page, which is at It's Nuttery, and then the nuttery.com, which I hope by the time our listeners get to tune in, it's going to be launched.
Yes.
So you'll be able to shop everything in there and get the goods delivered straight to home.
Nice. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Mariela. It's been such a pleasure. You have such an incredible journey, and I can't wait myself to keep seeing what you'll be putting out there. So thank you so much for joining.
It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the She's Got It All Figured Out podcast. I can't wait to share more incredible discussions with you in the next one. In the meantime, for more personal development resources and support, don't hesitate to download the Bloom app, which is designed according to the 8 dimensions of wellness to help you create a life you're in love with. Start your free trial and take the next step in your personal growth journey today.